This Fleet Equipment Unscripted interview is presented by Hendrickson, a leading manufacturer of heavy-duty suspension systems and components to the global commercial transportation industry. Visit hendrickson-intl.com to learn more.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Morgan, Content Director for Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted. Today we're talking with Earl Adams Jr., Esquire, Vice President of Public Policy and Regulatory Affairs at Plus. Earl, thanks for taking the time. Great to see you.
Likewise. Thanks, Jason. Really appreciate it. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, and a Happy New Year to you, and a happy new position, because you have just recently joined Plus, but that's coming on the heels of 20-plus years of experience in the regulatory counseling, public policy, safety advocacy, and the transportation industry. You've served as the Deputy Administrator of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and before that, it's Chief Counsel. So I'm really interested to get your perspective on autonomous truck operation, because I think it's really gearing up here already in the new year. So from your point of view, give us the regulatory focus. From that perspective, when it comes to autonomous trucking, what is the regulatory focus, and what do bodies like the FMCSA really focus on in that application?
Well, definitely. Well, let me just say again, thanks for having me on, and it really is a pleasure to be here with you. Looking forward to this discussion. You know, regardless of administration, the perspective and the priority of FMCSA and all of the modes at the U.S. Department of Transportation is always going to be safety. And so within the autonomous space, it's the same question. How do you ensure the safe deployment and operation of autonomously operated vehicles on America's roads? It's one of these crazy things, Jason, where we have every day the equivalent of an Airbus or a Boeing jet of fatalities on America's roadways. So 40,000 people lose their lives every single year. And so the whole purpose of the DOT and FMCSA, specifically around commercial vehicles, is to make sure that we can reduce fatalities and severity of crashes so that people can get home. And so, you know, the promise of autonomy is that we know that there are benefits when we remove, certain tasks from the dynamic driving tasks from human beings. And so when we can get to the point where we can remove the human entirely from the equation, we know that we're going to have safety outcomes. There will be safety benefits. So, you know, DOT, FMCSA, Trump administration, they're going to be focused on how can they, safely ensure that when there's self-driving trucks on the road that they're out there safely and protecting the motoring public.
For sure. So we speak a lot to fleet managers, right? The people that are in charge of operating and managing those vehicles. What do they need to be thinking about? Clearly, the CSA scores are always on a fleet's mind. What do they need to be thinking about as this technology develops and really starts making gains in its rollout?
Yeah, CSA or SMS, just safety management systems, that is going to continue to be just as important. I think as we move towards autonomy, at Plus, what we're doing is, leveraging AI technology in order to, safely operate these L4 systems. And, when we're looking at the safety management, sort of the envelope that these vehicles are going to operate in, the CSA is going to be just as important. It's not going to be, of course, focused on the driver, but it's going to be focused on the maintenance of the vehicle. It's going to be focused on how it's operating. And the real benefit that I see and what makes me excited about autonomy, especially within this safety management system sort of approach in CSA as the way in which they monitor it or track it, is that we're going to have a closed loop system for the first time. Plus, this technology is going to enable our OEM partners that are actually operating and maintaining these vehicles to have the amount of data that they're going to be able to have their hands on in order to track the operation of the vehicle. Is we've never had a moment like where that's happened before. And so I think that, fleet managers will continue to have to worry and focus on the safe operations, but now they're going to have more data. They're going to have more information about how that vehicle performed. And that will, again, I think lead to safer outcomes and just better efficiency in the operation of commercial vehicles.
Yeah, you raise a really interesting point here, too. And if I'm following on that closed loop idea, right, I think about clearly the maintenance part of it. Obviously, that's big and is big right now. And fleets spend a lot of time on that because roadside inspections are a reality. And you want to make sure that you have everything on the truck all good to go and in good operation. But that operation part that you speak of, this closed loop, is really interesting. And I think something we haven't talked about really in general on the autonomous side of the amount of data, and maybe how that even impacts reporting and CSA scores or what those become or evolve. I think maybe even the closest analogy we might have is kind of the ELD mandate from, way too many years ago now that even I want to admit, right? But that gave somewhat of a window into operation. But now, to your point, more data on the operation side that really interconnects both safety, operation, and the maintenance of the truck. Is there anything specifically there that you could see changing in a very real way for fleets?
Yeah, well, let me just kind of to touch on the ELD piece. I mean, that represented a technological advancement where you have for the first time, sort of a systematic amount of information about when the vehicle was operating. And that was a key piece to ensuring hours of service, compliance, and the like. Well, now we're moving towards L4, and that's what Plus is delivering, is this amazing L4 product where you won't have a driver there. You're now going to be able to, from the time that vehicle starts till the time that it stops, the fleet managers, the OEMs, the roadside inspectors, everyone will be able to track every aspect, every mile of what occurred in the performance of that vehicle. So, when you look at like level 8 inspections, and this is, the grand vision, but, level 8 inspection was to enable the roadside inspector to be able to have just some preliminary data, just simply, the driver's name, their where their license, and the DOT number, so that and flash up a CSA score. That's all that the level 8 was going to provide for the roadside inspector. Imagine a world where, depending upon the amount that the state or the federal government data that they can actually maintain at any given time, imagine where that inspector gets even more. The number, the speed in which it's been operating for the time that's been going, hard stops, you name the type of data that is being tracked regularly within L4 systems that could now be available to inspectors. And I think that could be a game changer when you're looking at and trying to evaluate the overall performance of L4 systems.
I see. Greater transparency in a lot of the truck telematics that many of the fleets are watching already for operational efficiency and maintenance. Very interesting. So you've joined Plus. You have this huge background in regulatory and public policy. What do you hope to bring to Plus and enable autonomous trucking into reality here?
Yeah, I actually knew of Plus and had sort of engaged with them during my time at FMCSA, and even before I was actually an employee, I actually felt that the company was on the right track. I mean, it was delivering products at where the market was, but more importantly, they were approaching it from a safe perspective. Safety very much seemed to be their North Star, just like it was for us at FMCSA. So now that I'm a part of the team, my hope is to just be able to enhance the work that they've been doing. I'm going to be focusing on creating some new partnerships. We already have great partnerships with CVSA and other sort of state constituencies, but we're now going to look to kind of broaden it to looking at community organizations because there's a great amount of education that needs to be done just for public adoption of autonomous vehicles. So I'm looking to hopefully enhance that. Also working with our partners at FMCSA and the USDOT. Of course, the fact that I came from that agency, is helpful, but more importantly, because of my 20 years of experience of regulatory counseling, I know how to help translate, business imperatives and needs, into regulatory perspectives and guidance. And so, being able to help the company tell its story, and it's a great story on safety. It's a great story on delivering and leveraging AI. That's what I'm hoping I'm going to be able to add some value to the overall team.
Very cool. One more for you, Earl, because you bring up a good point, and I've been a little bit surprised because I've gotten a number of emails on autonomous trucking, even here in the past couple of weeks, with people's thoughts on it and how they feel about it. I had one reach out. So what would you say to people maybe that are apprehensive about the technology or thinking, oh, it's not safe, or oh, it's being rushed out, or oh, how do we know it's going to work? What would you say to them to maybe help ease some of those apprehensions?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that, it's very important for the industry to focus in on this question. At Plus, we talk about the 3 E's, so education, exposure, and evaluation. And it's going to be so important that we continue to educate the public around the safety benefits. So, and I just actually had this conversation with a good friend who gives that example of the decision between a stroller versus a box. And I said, here's the rub. The question itself is kind of framed from the perspective of how we drive as humans, where in reality, as our CEO David Liu just said at CES, our goal is to ensure that our L4 systems never get into that situation because they are evaluating and perceiving the world much farther out than what we as human drivers are able to do. And so, but that's just an education part. And then it's exposure. We got to find as many ways to give people touch points, whether it's through robo-taxis, closed loop shuttles at airports, where they're just experiencing autonomous vehicles and realize that, after about 2 minutes, they're kind of boring. Because they're just doing what they're
by design, right?
By design. And then finally, from an evaluation standpoint, the goal is that we can show the data, and the truth is that going back to that closed loop system, we will be able to demonstrate the safety benefits. How? It's because we'll have fewer crashes. We'll have fewer. The severity of those crashes will be fewer, and God willing, we'll have fewer fatalities. And that's, to me, I think through that data collection, for policymakers and regulators, that I hope that, when you combine those 3 E's together, that we can get people ready and more accepting of the technology. That is, it's definitely, it's here, it's present, and it's just a matter of making sure that it's deployed as safely as possible.
Earl, it's been great talking to you. I appreciate it. I'm sure we'll talk to you again more as all this rolls out and develops. Thank you for taking the time.
No, my pleasure. Thanks so much. And appreciate everyone watching this, and get ready for some great things from Plus in the coming year.